The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Can we slow down? Rick Tocchet is not flying to Philadelphia because John Tortorella just got fired, and Rick Tocchet's like a Flyers legend. Okay, it's okay. Wait, what?
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. One love to you and you and you and you and the Locked On Podcast Network for giving you, your Canucks every day. A one love to the Don't Doze Art Lab for doing their thing as well. On today's episode, dude, speaking of the West Coast bias, we got to go here. After what was the biggest win of the season, keeping our season alive, keeping me out of retirement, the Vancouver Canucks find themselves here, right? Having to focus on this, because I guess I wouldn't say there's a lot of truth to this, but the narratives, man. Narratives play a role, okay? Rick Tocchet, no contract or a coach's option or a team option. Nonetheless, quote unquote, no contract, and boom, bam, just like that, his former team, right? The Philadelphia Flyers, they need a head coach. Now, John Tortorella just got fired. And you best believe that Philadelphia would pay any amount to get last year's coach of the year in the fold. Also, again, a Flyers legend. The Philadelphia fandom, the sports fans over there, obviously they would love Rick Tocchet, and they just got loyalty in their blood. That would sell some seats, even though Rick Tocchet doesn't really coach, sell these seats type of hockey. But nonetheless, again, Trevor Beggs, the Philadelphia Flyers, they need a head coach. And some people are thinking, are these the last couple of weeks, last couple of months? Who knows how long the Canucks season will be of Rick Tocchet being behind the bench of the Vancouver Canucks. And again, I don't think that's the case. But I'll let you go on a spiel before I give you some of the facts about, again, Tocchet not going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you can see why people are tying to the Philadelphia Flyers, right? Because obviously John Tortorella, he gone, and the Philadelphia Flyers, I mean, Rick Tocchet is a franchise legend there, right? I believe it was 11 years he played in Philadelphia. That was, the bulk of his career. More than half of his career was spent with that organization. So it would be a hell of a story. And look, Rick Tocchet doesn't have any, ties to Vancouver as a player. Certainly coached a lot in this building. And, I even think of him being an assistant for the Colorado Avalanche back in the day when the Canucks and the Avs had a rivalry. But look, with Rick Tocchet, I think it's going to come down to how badly does he want to be in Vancouver? Because, look, I could see Philadelphia wanting to throw him a chunk of change, right? I believe there's only two coaches in the NHL right now who are making more than $5 million a season. You got a guy in Rick Tocchet who he's the reigning Jack Adams winner of the year. You got a guy in Francesco Aquilini who you would think would be willing to fork out the dough to keep Rick Tocchet around, especially if Jim Rutherford and Patrick Levine are as high on him as they say they are publicly. So I get the feeling Rick Tocchet isn't going anywhere and it's just noise, but the Canucks are going to have to step up and likely they'll have to make him one of the highest paid coaches in the NHL. And Kyle, does that matter to you? I mean, it doesn't fit into the salary cap, but does Rick Tocchet, do you think he deserves to be one of the highest paid coaches in the NHL?
Dude, in this economy, you do something great once, you just get paid for it, okay? For real. It is what it is. And I don't think sports fans should care about how much their coaches get paid. It doesn't have much to do with the operation, okay? The salary cap, nonetheless, right? Who cares? Who cares? Let Rick Tocchet get his quote-unquote worth. And, if he, there's just been so much turnover already on this team over the last 5 years, bro. You really want Quinn Hughes and company, Quinn Hughes' favorite coach, gone. You really want Quinn Hughes and company being taught by a third new regime behind the bench in what, 4 years, 5 years? What would the number be exactly? That's way too much. That's the biggest sign of a dysfunctional program. That's instability at its finest. The Canucks have to sign Rick Tocchet because Quinn Hughes loves him, and they got to build something here. And again, who knows what's going to happen the rest of the way in the next 10 games? I'm predicting playoffs. I'm predicting us going 10-0. Making the playoffs. So we got to stack up these playoff appearances, and we just got to stack up identity building, culture building. And obviously a lot of good coaches are out there and they can do that. But we've already been in this, I'm not going to say the system, I know people question Rick Tocchet's system a lot. It is what it is. And to be honest, going into the season, this guy wanted to be an offensive juggernaut. That was his approach, and it's been the complete opposite. That's the truth. But how about the culture that he's building, right? Come on, like that's part of it. That's part of coaching in general too. Maybe Rick Tocchet goes into next year better at approaching offense in a training camp, right? But that culture, that's just him. That's in his DNA. That no quit attitude. The reason why the Canucks are pulling off victories against these teams without so many pieces and are still in a fight after all this drama and all this trauma. It's because there's compete there. There's a will to win, and I think Rick Tocchet being one of the leaders in the room, and again they removed Miller, so even more so. And Trevor, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been saying this for a while. Moving forward with this team, Rick Tocchet has to actually be more of a leader because he's been giving his players a lot of the leeway there when it comes to being the men in the room, galvanizing the troops. Boom, boom, bam. But Rick Tocchet, you be that guy because you're one of the best at that. Look at why the Flyers love him. All in all, though, the identity of this team, obviously, it's Quinn Hughes and Thatcher Demko, and that no quit attitude and boom bam, and I love that. And we saw a lot of that in the playoffs last year too. But I just don't want Rick Tocchet being removed from that equation as well, Trevor. It's a little too early right now.
Yeah, and it's funny because I bet if you asked, I don't want to say a majority, but a good chunk of Canucks fans about the middle of the season, I think they'd be saying, let Rick Tocchet walk, right? This guy has faced more smoke this season. It has been a bit bumpier. And of course, injuries have played a big part of it. The drama's played a big part of it as well. But a lot of people are not a fan of the way Rick Tocchet coaches, the defensive style. It's not the most exciting brand of hockey. Some say it's limiting goals. And, I do think there's some truth to that, but I do think it's more on the players, all the slumps that have been going on and the injuries that have been going on more so than it is Rick Tocchet's coaching. But Kyle, I think you need to hit the nail on the head with Quinn Hughes, who loves Rick Tocchet. He loves Adam Foote. And it feels like the Canucks are building something here with Rick Tocchet at the helm. And I just don't think the Canucks are going to be shy about paying him and making him one of the highest paid coaches in the NHL. So so everyone knows, reports are that Rick Tocchet is making $2.75 million per season right now with the Vancouver Canucks. That has him as the 11th highest paid coach in the NHL. And look, on his next contract, he's likely going to be getting $4 million plus, right? John Tortorella was a $4 million coach. But if you look at the guys at the top of the food chain, Mike Sullivan and John Cooper are the only coaches right now making over $5 million. Then it looks like you have Peter Laviolette, Jared Bednar, Bruce Cassidy, and Peter DeBoer in that $4 million range. Look, Kyle, you alluded to it. Rick Tocchet and our commenters alluded to it too. Rick Tocchet was behind the bench at Team Canada. He's one of the best coaches in the game right now. He's the reigning Jack Adams winner. I think Rick Tocchet has a chance to be the highest paid coach in the NHL. If not, he's going to be a top 5 highest paid coach in the NHL. And I'm curious. Let us know in the comments. Do you think he deserves to be that?
Whoa, yeah. And this is where the I don't know, would it be like the reporter lingo or the journalistic lingo or the shit disturber lingo? But it's like, oh, maybe this is why the Canucks definitely need to make the playoffs, not just so Tocchet can prove his case, and again, stacking playoff appearances is good on the resume, but let's make a little bit more money. So. I'm talking about Aquilini's wallet, so he's willing to, pay another $5+ million for, in this case, a coach, which is again a lot of money. And Tocchet going to Philadelphia, Tocchet. I know the legacy and all that would be there, and I'm not the NHL nerd. I'm just going to assume that it wasn't all John Tortorella's fault that Philadelphia can't win, they can't win games. So why would Tocchet want to ditch one of the best players in hockey in Quinn Hughes? Because I'm not going to say Rick Tocchet is in love with Quinn Hughes, but he's in love with Quinn Hughes. Straight up. As far as coach to player relationship, that 1-2 punch, their chemistry is top notch. It's elite. Okay? Well, why would Tocchet go away from that to go to Philadelphia? Now, I understand other places that maybe have won recently or, just better teams overall, but Philadelphia is like a project still. That just seems like a lot of work, dude. And don't get me wrong, Philadelphia loves you and they're loyal to you. But dude, come on, we watch sports forever, man. Go ahead, go behind that bench. They're gonna love you for 1 year of losing and rebuilding, but your shit will get old in year 2 because it's Philadelphia, and it just seems like a lot of work out there.
And I think Rick Tocchet understands that too, right? He spent 11 years in that market. I don't think the guy is really afraid of the heat or afraid of the smoke, but I think this is a bargaining chip for Rick Tocchet because that would be much like when the Canucks brought in Trevor Linden as the president. It would be a big PR win for the Philadelphia Flyers to bring on Rick Tocchet as their head coach. especially with what he's done here in Vancouver, winning the Jack Adams last year. So I think all this means is that Rick Tocchet is going to potentially make more money if he wants to use that as a bargaining chip. He's also been in the NHL for a long time, man. He might not be too worried about the money overall, but I think these guys got agents for a reason, and I think he's going to use this to make more money. But I would be pretty shocked if he doesn't stay behind the Vancouver Canucks bench and sign an extension. I would think probably in that 3-year range.
Yeah, just Google it. Google Rick Tocchet and money. You think this guy cares about money? Man, oh man, dude. So it is what it is, dude. Again, for me, playoffs or not, based on how many injuries the Canucks have suffered this year. And again, I'm not, and maybe we'll go through like some of the ups and downs of Tocchet's coaching decisions after the break. But again, playoffs or not, with the injuries that he's had to deal with and all the drama. Oh, but the coach is supposed to handle the drama, dude. When the drama is involving your top 2 highest paid players who happened to kill it last year, but again, are back at whatever Pettersson and Miller were going through, like they took it as a coach and as somebody like Rick Tocchet, who definitely doesn't understand that. Like, what are you talking about? We just won for the first time last year. We won a couple of games. We made the playoffs, and you guys can't put your ego aside to like work on winning when you have Quinn Hughes on your team. Like, that must have been so frustrating for a hockey nerd and a competitor for Rick Tocchet, and having to deal with that and all that stuff. It's like a lot of ish happened this year, and we're still fighting for a playoff spot. So playoffs or not, I would still like to extend him. I don't want the Canucks having to like find somebody else to and like reset the culture, because dude, it's Rick Tocchet. Like, you bring somebody else in there, things feel a lot different, and that's just way too. That's another thing you got to work on now: the identity, the culture, the ins and outs. Like, I want these players to get into routine. And again, this year's just. I'm not gonna say it's a write off, but a lot of noise happened. It hasn't been perfect, but Rick Tocchet seems like the perfect coach for this team still.
I believe so too. I think he's the perfect coach for this team. Again, you like to see him squeeze more offensive juice out of this team, but I do think, again, it's mainly been on the players, not the coach. Rick Tocchet, keep him in Vancouver, and I think he's going to stay in Vancouver as well. So, Kyle, on the other side, you mentioned it. Let's get into some of the good and bad of Rick Tocchet this season, and maybe, much like we do on the postcast, let's give his season a grade overall. That's coming up on the other side. We'll also get to some news and notes as well. You're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every damn day. We'll be back on the other side of the show and our friends over at Trade Coffee. Man, oh man, Kyle, you and me, we need the coffee right now because you alluded to it, man. This Canucks stretch is turning us into alcoholics, man. A couple beers every game, man. Boom, bam. It's a nervous time of year. So I need that extra coffee in the morning. And I don't go get that grocery store crap anymore. I make sure I get my coffee from Trade Coffee, because let me tell you, this coffee is next level. Trade is the #1 specialty coffee marketplace, bringing you fresh coffee from over 50 of the country's top roasters. Their experts have taste tested thousands of coffees, curating over 450 amazing roasts. Whether you're new to coffee or know exactly what you like, they'll handpick the perfect match for you. And man, oh man, I'm bad at making choices. So I took the quiz on Trade Coffee's website, and under a minute, they matched with a roast that was fresh, smelled incredible, and tasted even better. Right now, Trade is exclusively offering our listeners 40% off your first order at drinktrade.com/lockedonnhl. That's drinktrade, TRADE.com/lockedonnhl for 40% off your first order.
Okay, we back doing this, and that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks, Trevor Beggs, Kyle Bowen, and Rick Tocchet to the Flyers. No, not going to happen, okay? And some of you believe so as well in the comments, and some of you disagree. Let's get to a couple here on Locked On Canucks. Okay, Dan Jardine saying Manny Malhotra is waiting for that Alvin phone call. I mean, is he the obvious replacement if Rick Tocchet doesn't sign a contract? I don't think so, because the obvious replacement is Adam Foote. No?
Yeah, I think it would probably be Adam Foote. I mean, Manny Malhotra just became a head coach at the AHL level, and Adam Foote doesn't have a ton of experience either, but just from him being behind the NHL bench, being Rick Tocchet's right-hand man, he should be the guy that would be, I suppose, the replacement if Rick Tocchet were to walk. Although it's fair to wonder, like, sometimes coaches work in tandems, right? It was Mike Sullivan and John Tortorella for a long time before Mike Sullivan became his own bench boss. So I would think that Adam Foote and Rick Tocchet are sticking together for the foreseeable future. It's worked so far in Vancouver, especially from the defensive side of things. And, for all the stuff about the Canucks not being the best offensive team and for the structure stifling this team offensively. And, if you're a systems guy, hit us up in the comments, because I know there's some guys who claim to be systems guys out there who really don't like Rick Tocchet. Like there is a vocal minority of the fan base who doesn't want him to be the coach of the Canucks long term. But yeah, in terms of replacements, I would say it's Adam Foote and then Manny Malhotra.
Dude, but what do those people? What do those people want? Like, I like. Again, last year he was the perfect coach, and this year's been the worst season. Like, again, if you just there's that chart that we retweeted it, and it was via Reddit. Like, somebody made a chart about all the stuff that's actually happened to the Canucks this year, and yeah, it may sound like a load of excuses, but it's phenomenal. Like, it's a documentary worth of activity that's happened over the last 10 months with all the injuries, with all the changes. You can even break it down to like having to even get a new assistant coach last year after Mike Yale went to Ottawa. Again, it's a small thing, but things just kept moving and grooving for this team. And you know what I'm saying? The negotiations with even somebody like Nikita Zadorov, like you can date it back all the way there. And it just like snowballed into, again, Pettersson and Miller doing whatever, 10-game suspend. I mean, player absence for Miller and huge injury and Demko thing and Dakota Joshua and Hronek out for 2 months. And just drama and Jim Rutherford talking to Globe and Mail and TMZ and going on the Joe Rogan podcast talking shit about the Canucks, and Patrick Alvin doing the same thing to Ian McIntyre. It's like all these things were happening. So like, what did you expect? And Pettersson was invisible for 500 days. Like what? Like, and the Canucks are here. Getting the most out of Kiefer Sherwood and Derek Forbert. What else? Like, dude, he just won Coach of the Year last year. And he went through all this, and we're still here. Yo, you got to keep this guy. What else do you want? You give him a real fair shot. And a real fair shot to me is more than 2 years of 2 full years of, especially if one of them was a second-round playoff appearance in the Coach of the Year thing. Like, come on, we can't just be one of those organizations that go from coach to coach to coach. And as somebody alluded to in the comments, GM Quinn Hughes is on the job. Dude, that's a way to make Quinn Hughes happy. Like, Operation Keep Quinn Hughes Happy is the second goal of this team. It's win the Stanley Cup, right? But the second goal is like keep Quinn Hughes happy.
Yeah, this organization does need to keep Quinn Hughes happy, and Quinn Hughes is, by all accounts, thrilled with Rick Tocchet and Adam Foote. And Kyle, I echo a lot of the same things you're saying. I think, based on the circumstances, this has been another really strong year for Rick Tocchet. His run in Vancouver has been phenomenal so far. From coming in from Bruce Boudreau, kind of righting the ship defensively pretty quick after he came to town, to what he did in 2023-24, to how he's raised the floor of this team by creating a structure, by motivating guys in the bottom part of the lineup. I think he's done a fantastic job this season. Now, if we're going to talk about criticisms of Rick Tocchet this year, it's a fine line, but you almost want to say he likes to put his lines in the blender a bit too much. He doesn't tend to stick with the same combinations. You could argue that this team, again, they've had a lot of injuries, so I'm nitpicking a bit. But it's hard to build chemistry when you're constantly rotating guys, period to period, even trying to find something that works. So again, that is a fine line. It's a bit nitpicky as well. And look, I know in terms of the system stuff as well, there's a lot of people saying that Rick Tocchet's style prioritizes his guys dumping and chasing. And I just don't think that's the case, because Rick Tocchet multiple times has begged his players to be more creative offensively, to carry the puck into the zone with speed. And we saw Filipino do it pretty successfully during his time with the Canucks. And again, when guys like Pettersson and Besser at the top of your lineup aren't the quickest guys in the world, they tend to dump and chase more than they've been doing in previous years. So I do think Rick Tocchet has been trying to get his guys to be more creative offensively, but it's just not a quick team overall. And I think that's actually more on Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin than it is Rick Tocchet. But again, when you talk about the drama this season, having your top player just take a fart and relax for 500 days. It's pretty hard to be a dangerous team when that's the case.
Yeah, or the second best player, your highest paid player, and just your number one center. And yeah, it's a lot of stuff. But yeah, even with the whole line changes thing, like I don't like that too. And just in general, like his decision making this year, like I feel like the noise has also gotten in the way of like his complete and utter focus, because there's been like bow and head things, and it could even go down to like what happened with Lankinen, on Saturday, right? Playing a goalie that's not 100%. What? Like what that's how much you don't believe in Sheila, right? It just doesn't make sense. And this actually also happens after playing Demko too much when he was on fire earlier in the season, when it's like, yo, you can't do that anymore. Right? Didn't you learn your lesson last year when the Canucks were a first place team and you just didn't want to play Casey DeSmith? Like, you can't do that anymore. Demko, and he did that, right? Like he was doing that. So just his decision making in those regards, like little things like that, man, just not 100% this year. But other than Quinn Hughes, like nobody really has been that guy for the Canucks consistently, and maybe Kiefer Sherwood and whatnot. But oh no, just the Quinn Hughes thing. It's just like a big thing. Like just set that guy on a program. Everyone's now bringing up, oh, like maybe Tocchet doesn't want to sign because he doesn't know what direction the team's going. He wants to have it laid out in front of him before he makes his decision. Well, dude, you want to lay out that program in front of Quinn Hughes too, and just make it as simple as possible. Because I don't think a guy like Quinn Hughes is so cerebral and also been a member of this team for 7-8 years. Like he's not gonna believe in a new plan. He isn't. Like it's way too late for that. Like he's in his utter peak right now, you know? And I just feel as if Rick Tocchet goes, there's a small chance, like, you don't know. You just never know, Trevor. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he goes this summer too, or ask for who knows. But I'll say this too. Not to be positive, Trevor. And I want you to not carry off what I just said because that was just some bullshit. Ricky was telling me on the phone, like, don't you think Rick Tocchet wants to finish the job? Get uber competitive.
Yeah, I do think he wants to finish the job. I mean, I'm not in Rick Tocchett's head, but again, I just have a hard time seeing him going to Philadelphia. I know he's got the ties there, but like you said, it's a bit of a rudderless organization right now. Their top prospect, Matvei Michkov, is a winger. That's not typically the guys you build around. They got, some intriguing young pieces. They're still an NHL team, but they look like a rudderless ship overall. Is that really where Rick Tocchet wants to go? Digging that team on the ground? The Canucks feel like they're close. I mean, Pettersson's and Demko are kind of key players in terms of can they be a contender again? Because they have depth, they have good defense, they have structure. It's can those star players be some of the best players in the NHL? Now, Kyle, before we get to the other side, I do want to ask you, how would you grade Rick Tocchet this season?
If he makes the playoffs, a B+. If he doesn't, a B.
I'd be giving him an A. I'd be giving him an A- overall because I think the complaints to me are largely nitpicky, but just based on all the drama, all the injuries, all the noise that's gone around this team this season, I think he's done a hell of a job. Now, I do want to get to one comment before we get to the other side here about Rick Tocchet, a hater of Rick Tocchet here on Locked On Canucks. Angelo De Conciao, I'm sorry, I'm butchering your name, buddy. He's given Rick Tocchet an F, saying, "Remember Willie D, just like Tocchet screwed Pettersson's offense." Now, again, Willie D was fired before the Canucks brought Pettersson onto this team. But I think for that argument, because Angelo's not the only Canuck fan saying that. How do you explain Pettersson's incredibly strong finish to the end of the 2022-23 season? And the fact that he was on pace for 107 points up until January of 2024 under Rick Tocchet. That was 12 months under Rick Tocchet, where Pettersson was a top 10 scorer in the NHL. So that to me screams that this isn't a systems thing. That is a Pettersson thing. For whether it's injuries, whether it's mental, whether it's a combination of the two, it's not Rick Tocchett's style, in my opinion, that has been limiting Elias Pettersson.
Oh, 100%. And look at Elias Pettersson post apologizing to Ian McIntyre to the media, like taking accountability. And then it made a lot of sense what Alvin's been talking about, because he's brought that up a couple times with Elias Pettersson. Like, this is on you, nobody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's because he has so much control, right? He's a player. He's the number one center. He has the puck a lot. Like, this is on you. It's not on the coach. It's not on the drama. It's not on the noise. This is on you. And again, look how Pettersson. Again, I'm not gonna say he has a big ego or like he's not a humble individual, boom bam, but he's carried a lot of weight this whole season, and it's taken its toll. But I think part of the problem for him was that him blaming other pieces, like him also taking it personal the way the team approached the contract situation, and him how the team like outed him during the press conferences last year at the end of the season, and not outed him, but you know what I'm saying, they kind of did with the whole tendonitis or heart whatever it was. All in all, though, Pettersson was a much better player this season after he was accountable. So it had nothing to do with Tocchet. Look at Quinn Hughes with Tocchet. You think you know what I'm saying? You think Rick Tocchet is after playing all of his hockey with the best players in the world, Mario Lemieux, Wayne Gretzky, etc. The list goes on and on. I don't think there's a player in hockey history that's played with more legends than Rick Tocchet. That's a fact. You think this guy's watering down or forcing his players to water down their skill? No way. No way. But hey, man, it is what it is. Maybe some people don't like bald people, man. That's what it is. And I'm going to get there one day. People aren't going to like me. It is what it is, man. You just got to keep it moving, keep it breathing.
Well, you know what they say, the balder you get, the bigger your muscles get, man. Look at Rick Tocchet doing 17 chin-ups in a suit. Kyle, I expect the same out of you when you're in your 50s as well. Let's talk about some younger guys on the other side here at Locked On Canucks. Get to some comments, and specifically, Kyle, I want to talk about offer sheets. What? That's coming up on the other side here on Locked On Canucks. Your Canucks every damn day. We'll be back after showing you our friends over at Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? You know the answer. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites, because Indeed Sponsored Jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. Now, man, I do love Indeed. At my day job, we used Indeed to find that right person. And Kyle, I'm stoked that the Canucks won last night so that I don't have to put a post on Indeed to find another co-host here at Locked On Canucks. Don't retire on me, buddy. The Canucks are going to make the playoffs. It's going to be all good, buddy. But if you need another person in your business, make sure you can speed up your hiring process by using a $75 sponsored job credit from Indeed. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this very podcast, Locked On Canucks. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need.
Okay, we back doing this, and that's being friends. Trevor, how you doing, bro? How's life? The sun is shining. The Canucks won yesterday. You still got a chance, bro.
The sun is shining, man, and it's starting to feel like spring again, and I'm starting to get that craving for playoff hockey. And you know, the Canucks obviously are underdogs to make it right now, but just like you, I'm all for meaningful games in March. And enough of that loser mentality. I know we've seen fans talk about it in our comments. I saw Taj posting about on Twitter about, all this means the Canucks are going to get a worse draft pick. Like, shut up and just enjoy the ride. Stop being so miserable. Now, in the offseason, the Canucks, they are going to have to, and Patrick Levine said they are going to have to find ways to bolster their center ice position. And that leads to the question, could they use an offer sheet? Let's get to the comments here on Locked On Canucks. It's interesting that this comment is coming up today, but the fans are dreaming here on Locked On Canucks. And hey, I like the dreaming, man. Dan Jardy in the comments saying, offer sheet Bedard this year and celebrating next year. Hans Dryden saying a Bedard offer sheet would cost 4 first-round picks. LMAO. Kyle, theoretically speaking, would you be willing, if, let's say, Chicago wanted to give up on Connor Bedard for whatever reason, would you be willing to offer sheet him and give up 4 first-round picks for Connor Bedard?
100%. He's Connor Bedard, man. It's Connor Bedard. But I do find it interesting how the NHL world is like, oh, maybe he won't sign there. What are we talking about? What is that? What number 1 overall pick, phenom player, after 2 bad seasons with the team that was ish? Like, they're literally, how did Bedard not know this was going to be the case? Like, that's how they got you. Right? They set themselves up to be so super, super duper bad because they were trying to guarantee the first overall pick. Look at how Chicago moved that year. And again, last year, they spent a lot of money trying to, like, make things a little bit better. Hasn't worked. But Bedard's probably seen that, like, at least they tried. Like, he's not going anywhere. Got signing the biggest deal this year with Chicago. It is what it is. Or even if it's not big, maybe it's like a 5-year deal. Maybe it's a 6-year deal. Maybe it's not 8, right? Maybe that's how that's how he screws them over, quote unquote, and burns them for a poor start to his quote unquote NHL career. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think he's going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, neither do I. I think it's mainly just fun conversation, but I'm on the same page as you. I mean, so 4 first-round picks means you have to sign him to a contract, paying him a minimum of $11.4 million per season. But again, like you said, Kyle, he's Connor Bedard. He's gonna figure it out. He might not be McDavid good. That's what my prediction was, that he would be in that tier when I was watching him in junior. It looks like he's not going to be that good, but he's still going to be one of the best players in the NHL once he hits his peak. Now, the other name, offer sheet wise, was brought up in the comments by Hans Dryden. Offer sheet Mason McTavish of the Anaheim Ducks. Now, I think it's easy to say the Anaheim Ducks have oodles of cap space. They're, of course, going to match on Mason McTavish. But the only reason I'll raise an eyebrow there is Greg Cronin has been a little critical of Mason McTavish this year, basically calling him a third-line player. McTavish hasn't really grown. This is a third NHL season. He's been around 19 goals and 45 points in each of his first 3 seasons. I do wonder if there's a world where potentially you could offer sheet make Mason McTavish at the right price. It would probably cost you a first and a third round pick, potentially even a first, a second, and a third if you're going to go past $6.8 million a season. Kyle, what about the idea of potentially offer sheeting Mason McTavish?
Damn. What do his fancy metric stats look like? Because it's like if the Canucks are going to make a big time move like that, they got to guarantee they can have like a sure thing at center ice or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like it's got to be a sure thing. It can't be a project. It can't even be like Hedl level, right? Not to compare Hedl and McTavish, but I'm just saying they can't play too many of those games. That just seems like a large price to do so. You want to guarantee that. It's like just a huge package.
Nothing like a huge package, man. And, Mason McTavish, I would say that I'm trying to pull up some numbers right now, but, he's a good two-way player. And I think that's why Greg Cronin's referring to him as a third line center now. I think he's probably more in the mold of Bo Horvat. Better defensively, maybe not as flashy offensively, but I think he's going to be a second line center that brings you size and some snarl to your lineup. And that's valuable in the NHL. Is it worth a first, second, and a third? I mean, honestly, for a guy like Mason McTavish, if you believe he's your second line center of the future in your early 20s, that could make some sense to the Vancouver Canucks. Again, I don't think Anaheim would ever let him go, but you never know if the price is right. Sometimes players can be had, and we saw it last season with Phil Broberg and Dylan Holloway. For whatever reason, the Oilers soured on them, and they've gone to tear it up for the St. Louis Blues this season.
Dylan Holloway's good, man. That guy's good. And it was funny how he got stolen, and he was so depressed when he had to do his opening press conference with St. Louis. You could just see the look on his face. All in all, though, I'm happy the Oilers. Even though we're chasing St. Louis, it's like I'm happy the Oilers lost him. It'd be crazy, Trevor. Again, one love to everyone listening. Locked on Canucks, man. We doing it because of you and you and you and you. And again, the offer sheet comments about Bedard making me think yo, what if the Canucks pulled the Doncic trade and they're like, yo, take Pettersson and a couple first round picks and we'll take Bedard. It'd be like Pettersson and 3 first round picks, 2 first round. I don't know. I'm just trying to do the math and make it seem like the Doncic for Anthony Davis trade. But Pettersson, man, this is he's been in the league for 7 or 8 years. You can make the comparison to Anthony Davis too, because this guy gets hurt a lot. We got to start saying that about these players, man. Dude. I think Trevor's lagging. Okay, anyways, hit the like button. One love to you and you and you and you. Rick Tocchet ain't going anywhere. Hopefully we see Elias Pettersson back in a couple of days. Tomorrow we play the Columbus Blue Jackets. Let's get the win. One love to the Locked On Podcast Network. They're giving you your team every day. One love to the Don't Doze Art Lab for giving you the West Coast bias. Again, hit the like button. Trevor's children really do appreciate that. And my girlfriend, man, she appreciates that too, man. She likes when I get liked. That's love, baby. Peace.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.